Alright, hi YouTube and welcome to my channel, So Fast I Young. I'm just doing a quick little video to kind of fill in between while I'm working on this big project. So when I was tracing out some stuff earlier, I thought I'd talk a little bit about the different types of tools you can use for tracing. So I kind of went through my stash and collected a bunch of stuff that I will show you. So when you're sewing and when you sew a lot, you start to develop a stash of things, of a lot of different things. So I just thought I would talk about some of the different options that you have for marking on your patterns. Let's see where to start. I will start with traditional Tailors chalk. So this is a piece of traditional Tailor chalk. You can get this in different colors. You can get it white, blue, yellow. I've seen it in kind of like a dark black color, and it can be very useful. It's easy to kind of like sharpen an edge on it if you need to or whatever. So it comes in different like colors. It's just a little square. You can get holders for it and stuff. I don't know, I just always have chunks of it. There's pros and cons about it. It marks pretty well. When it gets dull, it starts to get very fat lines. It's not easily removable, especially if you work with, like, say you use the black one on something very dark. Sometimes it can be hard, but then also sometimes it comes out way too easily because it's just chalk. Kind of like depends on the fibers. I honestly don't really use this much anymore. I just have a piece hanging out. Another option that's very similar is Tailor's chalk wax. Let me see one bigger piece of it. So looks almost exactly the same. This is my tiny little piece. This is my big piece. Again, comes in multiple different colors. It's wax. Nice thing about this is, okay, so if you're using the white on something and you iron it, the lines will disappear for the most part. Sometimes you'll still see like a little bit of a darkened line. It really depends on the content of the fiber and stuff, but a lot of times this will disappear. You can also get this in different colors: yellow, black, blue. I had, we got an order I think when I was in school, we got an order of black wax Tailor chalk, and a bunch of people used it to like do muslin shirts, like in white, like, or off-white, you know, natural fiber muslin color, and it was horrible because you couldn't iron the black out, like it stained. So just always be aware with stuff like that. It gets a little tricky when you're ironing. You can get color stains out of the, like with this stuff. Like I said, even the clear, this will mark white, and then when you iron it, it will pretty much dissipate. But again, sometimes depending on the exact fabric you're using, you will still see sort of like an oil residue line even from the white. So that's one of the downsides of it. But again, it's very easy to use, very easy to, like, say you screw up and you want to start over again, you just have to iron your, you know, section of fabric and your lines are gone and you can start marking over again. It's a lot easier to deal with in some ways than chalk. Okay. Let's see, well, we're talking about the similar things. Let's go ahead and talk about chalk pounce wheels. There's a couple different shapes of these. This has a little wheel on the end, and when you're drawing on things, it leaves behind a trace of chalk powder that is left in here. Again, this is great if you want a really, really fine line. Actually need to refill mine. Again, you can get it with different colors. This one I currently have blue inside of. You can also get yellow and white. I think those are the main colors. I don't know if I've ever seen any red. You might be able to get it in like a pinky red too. Yeah, it, you know, I like it for some things, but again, sometimes depending on how loose your weave is, sometimes like the lines will disappear. I generally just don't work with chalk much anymore in my life, but I have it because at one point I did. You can also get chalk in pencil form. So this is a little chalk pencil. It pops out and you can adjust how much is in there and goes back in. This just happens to be a cool little like thing I got. There was I have several of them all in different colors because there was a point in time when I was like, oh, this is useful. But again, comes in different colors: blue, yellow, red, white, sometimes red. Same issues and limitations. This you at least have like a nice big holder, and again, different size holders. Like you can find different versions of this. This just happens to be this like silly little Generation T thing that was popular like a decade ago. Earlier, or what made me think of doing this earlier is I was tracing and I decided to use a soapstone pencil. So that's what this is. This is soapstone. We've done my other things. So this is big old chunk. Oh, it's broken. Big old chunk of soapstone and a holder. Nice thing about soapstone is it stays in place a little bit more. It's not as easily removed with friction as chalk. It doesn't go away with ironing like wax, and it washes out because it's soapstone. No. Anyways, so this one I like for dark things, and if I want like a really nice point, because it's pretty easy to sharpen a point onto that. So you can kind of treat it like a pencil. And I chose to use that to trace out part of my pattern that I was working on earlier. So other things that you can use. I mean, honestly, if you're working with something light, you can always use a pencil. Like, pencils are great. Whether it's, you know, old-fashioned or mechanical pencil. I've actually even seen chalk pencils that have like in the quilting store. There was a quilting store I used to go to, and there was one time we picked up a bunch of random like marking utensils for the theater I used to work at, and one of the things that we got was this it was like chalk. It was sort of a chalk pencil, but it was like a chalk mechanical pencil, so it was like super thin, and you could get different colors in it. One of the girls I worked with really loved it. I never found it that useful. But yeah, there's always your good old Mark Be Gone. I hate these because they dry out, and on certain fabrics they're really hard to get out. Like, no matter how much water you put on it, it just like turns blue again. And then sometimes it spreads. I don't know. I always keep one or two around, but they're not my favorite in the least. I use them a lot at work, my current job, but that's different. We're working on latex, and that's a completely different story. Yeah, you can also get these. There's a purple version that, do I have, wait, hold on. I'm trying to do this in one sitting. So you can there's a purple version that is like an error erase marker. Let's see. You can get it in pink, which is kind of cool. Recently I found out, actually I don't have it with me, that must still be at work. Recently I found out that they also make a white version, which is kind of cool. It actually is white. Like when you draw on, you can draw on black, and you don't see it at first, which is the only downside. You can't see the line, and then like after a few seconds after it dries, you see like a white residue. It's kind of really cool. I liked it. I like it for some of the things that I do, and I had never seen it before this past year probably. Doesn't mean it wasn't out there before. I just wasn't aware of it. Let's see, this pink one. Yeah, this pink one is a water erase one. They make a purple one that's an air erasable one. So that one you can mark, and if you're working fairly quickly, just over the span of a day or two, depending on the humidity in your area, they'll disappear. Sometimes I even literally mark with Sharpies. Like, not gonna lie, pens, Sharpies, they're your friend. If you're marking inside a seam allowance where it's never gonna be seen, like, doesn't really matter. And then the cool one that I'm super excited about trying is I just got a thing of frixion pens. Frixion, Frixion. I don't know if you've heard of them. I remember hearing about these a few years ago, mostly by quilters. Again, it's something that showed up in the quilting store that we used to go to a lot for supplies where I worked. And I had never tried them, but I heard things about them. So what's cool about this is, unlike old erasable pens, this one, the ink actually disappears through the friction of heat. Which also means you can work with this and then take it to an ironing board and iron all your marks away. I actually just got these last week, was testing it today with a little piece of fabric. I ironed it, drew all over it, ironed it, then I went and even put some ice on it to see if it would come back, and it didn't. So it's like, well, these might be my new best friend. I don't know. We'll see. I think they're mostly good for lighter fabrics, you know, but I had to play with it. I heard that there are ones that people can use on darker fabrics, so I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if any of the colors I got would work on dark fabrics. I should probably test that out too, but yeah. So don't be afraid to check out, you know, different types of marking tools when you're sewing. There are a lot of things out there. Don't just look in your standard, you know, like Notion section. Go check out the quilting section, because there's always cool stuff in the quilting section. And also just don't stick with, you know, your standard Joann's. Like, go check out little quilt stores and stuff, because they probably have lots of cool things that you've never even seen before. And yeah, so all right, thanks for listening to me ramble about marking implements. And yeah, so remember to like and subscribe, and, you know, check out my other things, my Instagram and my Tumblr. So yeah, bye.